Hey, Cameron here with the C Butters channel, and I have in-house the Flow X16. This is a pretty cool device, and the reason it's really cool and the reason why I'm super interested in it is we've never had such a powerful notebook that was also a tablet. And I'm not just talking touch, I'm talking full digitizer pen input. And if you watch my channel, you know that's what I'm all about. So it's a very unique device, and I wanted to just show you a couple things that I think is really cool about it, and also compare it to the predecessor, the Flow X13. So let's go ahead and take a look. Okay, so if we're going to do a comparison to the Flow X13, the first thing we got to do is just look at the size of these two devices. Now, you can see here that the X16 is quite a bit bigger, and it's almost comparable to, you know, a Surface Book 3 13.5 versus a 15-inch. And one thing I was surprised about the Flow X16, you hear 16 inches and my brain just starts going, no, that's way too big for me. But however, if you take the specs of this device and look at the ThinkPad Yoga 14 2-in-1 that was around back in the day with a GeForce 940M, I believe, it actually is the exact same dimensions as this X16, and so even though it's a 16-inch device, and it is fairly large, like don't get me wrong, this is big to kind of crook in your arm, but it's pretty comparable to Surface Book 15, and it's actually not any bigger. It's about the same size as the ThinkPad Yoga 14 that I carried around pretty regularly. So it's not a stretch to actually use this as some sort of tablet, at least not if you're used to it, using this size of device. But it is, I mean, it weighs, this one here weighs about 4.7 pounds with the mini LED display. There is a model that's also the X16 that does not have the mini LED display. That's a little bit lighter. The mini LED is heavier, which makes it about 4.8 pounds versus a 4.4 pound model that doesn't have this larger display in it. But like I said before, this is a full pen-enabled device, and you can use something like what I'm using right here, a Surface Pen, and it works great on the machine, and I'll do some demos for you later in the video to take a look at it. But the Flow X13 is a much lighter device. It's easier to hold, and this thing you almost need two hands to kind of move around, where this is pretty easily flipped around. You know, let's open it up. Once it's open, you can pretty much use this pretty easily. It's more, you know, Surface Pro sized. But in all honesty, I mean, let's look at the two together. There is quite a big difference, and you can see just how bright that display is. For one, it's offsetting my camera. So yeah, they're both portable, but this feels like a real tablet. Like, this is, you know, flip it around, easy to carry, you're not going to get tired. This is like, hey, I'm probably going to use this thing when I'm seated. Like, carrying it like this, I mean, it's like I'm leaning back to hold this thing, you know. So it is bigger, and who this is probably for, if you're someone who's trying to decide between the X13 and the X16, it's really going to come down to what sort of rendering and gaming and Blender performance do you need out of a device. Because if you need something like that, this has performance in droves, and this is a really powerful device, and I found it to be on par with the 3070 XG Mobile with the Flow X13, even without plugging in the ROG connector. Now, I've seen a few reviews of this. There's not too many out there, but they didn't even touch on the fact that this is a convertible device that you can ink on. And I think that's a huge disservice to the actual device here, because that is the selling point. At least that's what makes this thing unique. If you just want to get an M16 Asus gaming laptop at 16 inches, like, you could already do that, pretty easily. But this is a little bit lighter, and like the X13, which has, pound for pound, this thing has a lot of performance on it. I would say this thing has double the performance, and let me tell you what I mean by that. It, like, almost every spec, like the X13, you've got about 100 watts of performance on tap. With this thing, it's about 200 watts. The X13 has, a 500 nit display. This has an 1100 nit display. Now, that's an exaggeration because that's in HDR mode. It is still very bright, though. But the display is much better. You get a graphics card with at least double the execution units, double the wattage. You have 2 SSD slots in this. You can actually put NVMe drives in this if you want to. So it's just a very, very unique device in that it is fairly slim, fairly light for what is inside here and the performance that you get. But let's go ahead and look at what I think is the key reason that someone ought to pick this up over anything else, and that is the pen input and capability there. So let's go ahead and compare that against the X13 and Z13. I did a video recently with their pen performance. We kind of looked at the jitter that it had, the smoothness, and we want to see how this compares. One of the major things that you're dealing with is this has a higher resolution and larger display, which I think is maybe why, spoiler alert, the inking is a little bit smoother on it than it is on the X13. Now, I would not say it is up to par with the Surface devices, but it does a pretty good job. And let's go ahead and take a look at that right now. Okay, so I am here, and this is actually what's pulled up in Whiteboard is the exact same test figure that I did on the X13 and Z13 video. So you can see, if you look closely already, you can see where the jaggies are and where we kind of had disconnects on the X13 and Z13. So for example, see these jaggies right here, and also notice that we have missing lines right there. So I'm going to do the exact same test. Okay, so let's try to use the exact same test on top of these scribbles and just see how they compare to the X13 and Z13. Okay, so the first thing I think you'll notice pretty quickly is the fact that a lot less jaggies. It's definitely a smoother drawing experience on the X16, which is good because not only are you getting less jaggies, but you also have a much bigger display to work with. So that all together makes things very nice for just kind of drawing, having enough room to make the motions with your hand. Again, I am not the biggest artist in the world, but I do dabble in drawing and I do a lot of note taking. And in note taking especially, it's really nice to have that extra area, extra real estate for taking notes. Not necessary, but because you can pan very quickly with a hand, but it is really nice. And to be able to have an all-in-one device that can do all of this for you, but also have the same performance as a pretty high-end gaming laptop is pretty awesome. So any professionals that use Blender, that draw, that do game development, this is an outstanding device for those types of people. Now it is very expensive. The base model with the 3060 is probably not too far off in performance, but you do miss out on the mini LED. And that starts at $1,999 at Best Buy, which is already, pretty expensive. The X13 starts at about $1,500. The newest ones I think goes on sale pretty regularly for $1,599. So stepping up to $1,999 and then up to $2,699 if you get the 3070 mini LED version. So you'd have to be pretty seriously into some sort of game development or really interested in the pen and gaming combo that this gives you. And that said, like if you compare it, one of the videos up right now is comparing it to a MacBook Pro. And I think for the right person, this is totally going to be a better buy than that MacBook if you're Windows centric. It just gives us an option that we have not had in the past of having a convertible Windows PC with high-end graphics. I mean, that's why I like the Surface Book and Surface Laptop Studio devices so much, is that they gave you performance. They give you NVIDIA GPU along with great inking, portability, things like that. Now, I wouldn't say this is the most portable device out there, but it's okay. I mean, it will get the job done. If you use your laptop a little more than you use it as a tablet, you have a tablet when you need it, and you have a pretty standard operating notebook. I mean, it's just a notebook, but you get the added benefit of inking and pen capability. So I think this is probably for digital artists who also game, this is probably one of the best devices out there. And it's a very exciting device as well. So if you're interested, I'll leave some links in the description below where you can go check it out. But if you have any questions, you want me to do any specific reviews or tests with this, there'll be more content coming out for the X16 on my channel, including a video where I take the stock performance and then I show you how to tweak it to get the maximum performance. Maybe we'll get some times by world records for the hardware. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But stay tuned, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you on the next one.